I've talked for years about how you have to be very careful about what goes out on a broadcast. And fans don't think about these things because fans are morons. Esports fans are idiots. They don't know what's good for a broadcast. They don't think about big picture stuff. They just think about what I want for free all of the time. That is an esports fan. And so, for instance, I've talked a lot about people want to have, can we mute the streamers and just have the player comms? And it's like, well, no, you absolutely can't have that. Why can't you have that? Because communications are private. Players say things which aren't necessarily appropriate for public consumption, in the same way that you might say things privately or to co-workers that you wouldn't want getting out public, let alone being broadcast on fucking television. And just for a little, for instance, a fun one, as opposed to some of the bad stuff that gets out, I would say, you know, if you remember what happened when Virtus Pro were playing against NIP and a recording got out of them all saying, let's just go where Fifth Lauren is because Fifth Lauren's shit, and the public was really divided on it. On the one hand, some people thought it was funny because Fifth Lauren had a lot of haters because they didn't understand the vibes and all the good stuff he brought to NIP. They only looked at his scores. If you were, and the Fifth Lauren fans were like, oh wow, this is bullying, which of course it wasn't bullying, and Fifth Lauren had much worse in his career. Anyway, as it turns out, the community decided on not liking that. I'll also remind you of a more recent example when Cadian committed a hate crime by calling a young Mongolian team noobs. You might even argue appropriately, as they are new at that moment in time to Tier 1 CS. Now, he did shout the word noobs while everyone's wearing soundproof headsets. Almost certainly they didn't hear it. Mongols themselves said they didn't hear it. But that didn't stop everybody scanning the rulebook to try and find a reason for Cadian to get disqualified. Because when Cadian does the thing that you like when all your favourite players do, it's bad, but when your favourite players do it, it's just banter and it's good. So, look, I think you have to protect players, and I've maintained this. It wasn't something we ever wanted to do at E-League. Even on the occasions we did do it, we made sure we took a recording after the fact, and then we showed that recording to the players, to the managers, and we said it's okay if we air this, and they would give us permission, and then we would air it. We would put it into a segment. We would never do it live. And I have to say, there's been a number of just during Blast, there's been a number of hot mic incidents. I had to DM some of the casters at one point because an entire break, which were about 8 minutes long, went out with them being hot mic'd, and you could hear everything they were saying, which is absolutely, you know, beyond a joke. I've been hot mic'd exactly once in my career. And trust me, it could have been, if they'd started 10 seconds earlier, it would have been a drama. They only just caught me saying the phrase, obviously a rat, in the E-League green room. Well, I was talking about someone in the industry that I thought was a fucking rat. That's the only time I've been hot mic'd. You rewind that by 10 seconds, we've got a whole drama about it. Thorin got hot mic'd at the same event. The one time Thorin wasn't saying something outrageous, and he was talking about house prices in the Northeast and how overpriced they are, in a really mundane, a rare mundane conversation. Any other time, he's probably cancelled and has to go off the event. Obviously, as well, we've had James Banks. Why are players such lazy cunts? When I retire, I want to smash their heads in, which is hilarious because obviously that's at total odds to the persona he puts on, which is I am the friend of all of the players and they all love me because I'm an ex-pro, but that's what he really thinks privately. But again, the community's so stupid and plays favourites, they don't understand that that probably is a problem. And if I'd said that, or if Duncan had said that, they'd all be clamouring for me to be fired or never work again because the community are morons. And so as a result, you must absolutely protect players from the morons. Blast haven't been doing that this event. Their camera, as it does the sweep in the break, the mic's turned on for some reason. I can hear their strats. I can hear what they're planning to do in the second half of a game. That information never needs to go out, by the way. You can hear players maybe getting a little bit tetchy or a little bit petulant. That doesn't need to go out to the general public either. And perhaps most unforgivingly of all is what happened to Flames during this event. And I know Flames. I think he's a great kid, and I've been very complimentary about his development as a player. He's a really nice guy behind the scenes. If anybody knows him, if you might have met him at an event or had cause to talk to him. He's like just a super chill dude. And Blast aired something to make their segment look a little bit more spicy, but did so out of context. So as you know, Vitality lost to Eternal Fire in Blast, and while the game was underway, they showed a little highlights package, and I'll just show you what it looks like so you get an understanding of what was going on and why people might have got offended about this. So this is obviously Maui. He's took the narrative at face value and asked, how many times did you hold down your new spot because Eternal Fire ended up winning the match? But here it is. This is the segment as it aired.
Yeah, I mean, there's one highlight for Flames in this whole game, and it is when he's actually going back to the A bomb site. And Flames, I want you to just hold up the number of the finger for how many rounds you actually held your own bomb site. Like, I'm really curious. How many times did you actually hold the bomb site you were supposed to defend? Give him 1 second here. Give him 1 second.
He's calculating.
You know, yeah, he's thinking of the number. Oh yeah, once. That's how many times they held B, unfortunately.
So what they've done there on the desk is they've took the clip and they've done a funny little segment with it. It also aired in the highlights. So it aired 2 times as if essentially what Flames was doing the finger. And by the way, if we'd got told that, that's exactly the type of segment I would have done on a PGL broadcast. So I don't want anyone to hate on the desk or hate on Maui or hate on Freya or hate on Pimp. That's exactly the type of thing the desk should be doing because it's funny and it's entertaining. But the problem you've got is that it happened against Eternal Fire. Now, first of all, giving the finger, that, flipping people off as it's colloquially known, that's been a contentious issue in esports. Over in Riot Games esports, we've had incidents both in League and both in Valorant where players get fined for flipping the bird, which Riot says that has no place in esports. Meanwhile, over in the world of Counter-Strike, we've had numerous incidents of people flipping the bird, sometimes aggressively, as I remember back in like DreamHack 2010 when I watched Na'Vi play MTW in 1.6, and I think it was Senya got up and gave a double flip after a clutch. I was watching that in the Dream Arena with like 250 other people. Or obviously, you know, we've had it happen just for funsies in a number of events, haven't we? And so people in CS, we don't care. We think that's all just acceptable. That's within the realms of banter. In fact, our banter as an esport is generally good. It's only when we play favourites with the dumb community that don't have the intellectual capacity to be consistent in anything, which is, as I said, that's why it's okay for Config to start fights and fuck over his team and everyone feels sorry for him, even as he's lying and gaslighting the community about how he's definitely going to improve. But Cadian calling someone a noob is a hate crime. So generally, though, we let it go. We allow it. And so you just saw Flames doing it there. Now, the problem is... Oh, yeah, that's a good point as well. We've also got... You know, this is another good example. This is the Rain Classic here. There we go. You know, just a bit of fun. Just a bit of banter. All these players on the circuit all know each other, all play with each other. Very rarely does it have any animus. Sometimes it is a bit of mind games and just a bit of fun. But, you know, ultimately that's just how it is. Like, for example, you know, I work with all of the guys, like, and I know them all, and we all talk behind the scenes and stuff. So when it comes to, like, the broadcast talent, I might just send them a WhatsApp message that's just, like, insulting. But it's just banter. It's just a bit of fun. You know, I sent Maui one today because I saw a clip saying that like Democrats are someone was saying, a comedian was saying, I've never met a Democrat that's over 6 foot. It's all the short men because they feel that they need protecting and they're all like 5'9" or whatever. So I just sent that to Maui and called him a libtard. Now obviously that's just banter between friends, isn't it? You know what I mean? I don't really hate Maui. Like Maui. Maui's my mate. But you know, it's just funny. That's so doing this is obviously within bounds, isn't it? You know, but again, people didn't like it, and as we'll get to, there's a reason Blast should have really exercised some forethought. This is the thing I really have a problem with Blast. It's not their production. It's not necessarily all of their ideas. They seem to be trying to revamp the desk and do better work, and their formats are excellent. So it's not even a lack of creativity, but they don't think things through. I did see recently they announced that they wanted to hire a PR officer full-time for a year in their offices. And I'm like, well, it's about fucking time, because you've been muddling through all your announcements and just fucking everything up and making yourself look like idiots. And it all could have been avoided just by hiring somebody that actually understands the public relations game. I even offered my services for free. They never got back to me, never messaged me. I won't be applying for the job. I think that one's safe to say. But anyway, it's the fact they don't think things through, and I'll demonstrate what I mean in a moment. So, anyway, we had the Flames flip off, and it was against Eternal Fire. And that's the problem, because you probably will know this already, but Eternal Fire fans fucking stink. They are terrible. They are just so mean and vitriolic and horrible. And this goes all the way back to, if you remember, when Golden, when he was playing for Fnatic, he bought an auto sniper and beat them in a round with the old Dak machine, and they went mental. They were threatening to kill him, saying, if we ever see you, we'll kill you, because he picked up an auto sniper gun against them. They considered this a horrendous insult. One of the things that I always find incredible about esports is we can never talk about fandoms and fan bases being worse than other fandoms and fan bases. And there's only one other fan base that gives the Brazilian esports fans a run for their money in terms of their vitriol, threats of violence, just general unpleasantness to be around. We saw another example of this the other day, by the way. Gaules' stream went down because of the storms that were happening where he lives in Brazil, and the storms took out his stream, so the Brazilian fans flooded into the Blast chat and started spamming pause for the Gao, pause for Gaules, F Gaules, RIP, we want Gaules. It's like, guys, like, there's a live game going on. Like, what level of entitlement is this? And then when you call them out on it, they go, well, you would never understand. Oh, you just hate us, racista, xenophobico. It's like, no, you're just being arseholes. You're being arseholes. That's all. There's no ulterior motive, no secret hatred. I just don't like arseholes. I'm like a lot of people. I don't like when people behave like arseholes, particularly when large groups of people behave like arseholes, because when large groups of people behave like arseholes, generally bad things happen. So I said, fine. You know, we'll watch this one. I knew immediately, as soon as Flames did the flip off, that it was going to be Eternal Fire fans going absolutely mental. And what these large groups of fans do is it's never even a logical approach. What they do is they descend on like your social media, and it'll be like your last tweet that has nothing to do with anything. So, you know, for instance, right, this was the tweet from Flames, and he's like, yeah, delightful, really delightful, merci, talking about team vitality and all of this. This is like his, you know, Face It profile, and he's saying thanks for it. And he links to like the Face It shop, and immediately underneath, on the day that the game took place, which was yesterday, you have this. Oh dear. And this was posted probably about 50 times. But then it just escalates. Like, this is banter. I wouldn't hate this if this was happening to me. As I've said many times, Brazilians have sent me Vampeta's dick so many times. I've seen Vampeta's dick more times than Vampeta. That is an actual fact now. And he's seen it every day of his life since his eyes worked. And I've seen it more. It's there when I sleep. Just close my eyes, go to bed. I can just see him leaning through the goalpost with the semi-erection. No. That's what they've done to me, right? Vampeta's knob just embedded in my brain like Excalibur. But anyway, so that was posted a bunch. And then the comments went from banter to things like this. You are the whore of a son of a bitch country that commits genocide. Oh. You are a terrorist son of a bitch. Fuck Israel, that says. So now we're getting racist abuse being aimed at this player, right? There's no other way to cut that, right? Being Israeli. I mean, it's certainly xenophobico, dare I say it. So this is happening because of what Blast aired. You also, of course, get, and this is typical of Eternal Fire fans and Brazilian esports fans, very bizarre sexually aggressive hatred. Like, really sexually aggressive hatred, like rape threats and stuff between men. I've just never understood that one. But, you know, look, see, they'll put that finger in your ass, son of a bitch. More on that a little bit later. Just to show it's not like a one-off. You lost, you cheesy son of a bitch. Eternal Fire will keep fucking you. Put that finger up your ass. Anti-Semitism as well. You're a typical Jew. Hope you won't steal our boys' setup by the end of the match. XD, there's a reply to that saying he'll probably bomb you. This one says, this is Antares with a model that is having sex with Flames from behind. And the translation, which I can't show you here, says, come on now, if you can walk because of the pain in your ass, you son of a bitch. Now, this is on a totally unrelated tweet, by the way, and this just started flooding through, right? Like, there's dozens and dozens of these, and they escalate and they get worse. And so Flames came out and said, after the game, well played to Eternal Fire, GG. We struggled against them, not the LAN debut we wished for. Just to clarify regarding the middle finger, I was joking with the cameraman and pointed the middle finger at him. Blast took it from a different angle and posted it. I have nothing but respect to Eternal Fire and the grind they've been doing and wish them the very best. Now, we'll never know if this is true, but if ever there was a cause to lie, it's having thousands of people threatening to kill you. You know, some people will back down and, you know, make up an apology. I have no idea if he's telling the truth or not, but as we'll get to, Blaster backed up this version of the story. Now, this to me should have ended it, right? You end it here, but no, there's 227 replies to that tweet, as you can see, and again, you will understand exactly why there are 227 replies, because it's more of the same. But, you know, it's one of those. Lots of Palestinian flags, lots of Xantares fucking him up the arse, all of this stuff. It's all in there. You can go and check out the comments for yourself. I don't need to keep showing them to illustrate the point. And so, what do I mean when I say forethought? Talked about this before. You have to just project a little bit into the future when you're doing broadcasts and think about how things could be construed. Certain types of jokes or certain types of content, you've really got to try and take into account all angles. It was a lesson that I learned during E-League when that whole FGC drama happened, where we had two players that had threatened to physically beat each other up, and so for a joke we put on extra security, and we did this in a room. Both competitors were black people, and we did this in a room also with black members of the broadcast talent, black members of production. No one saw an issue. We did the segment live, did the joke, and immediately people at home said we were being racist because we were implying we needed extra policing because of rowdy black people, which wasn't what we were saying at all. People then quickly said Richard Lewis will have 100% come up with that segment. He is racist. He is a Nazi. And it set off this chain reaction that ends with me being threatened to be murdered by someone who has only recently been out of jail on gun charges and having to have a personal bodyguard for the rest of the season. So I learned the lesson about you must always try and consider even the most ridiculous, extreme responses to the mildest, most tepid jokes, because you never know. If people just dislike you, they will be as uncharitable as possible. And that's exactly what's happened here, because obviously Flames is an Israeli player. I don't know if you've seen the current zeitgeist when it comes to discussion around Israel, but since their retaliation to October 7th, there has been a noted rise in anti-Semitism. Now, on top of that, if you're playing a Turkish Arabic team where many people might have relatives in the Middle East, relatives in Palestine. Certainly their sympathies geopolitically would lead that way. Probably don't air the fucking footage of the Israeli supposedly flipping off the Turks. Maybe don't do that. Maybe understand how right now, that would be a bad thing. And so a lot of people didn't really see the forest for the trees on that one. And it kind of ended up spiraling out of control and ended up with, not just Turkish fans bandwagoning on that one, frankly. And so this player now will have to deal with the ramifications of every time he plays Eternal Fire fans probably coming out and giving him the same level of hatred, because it will now be enshrined in his law that he, the Israeli player, flipped off the Turkish players. I know Turkish people aren't Arabic to the person that said it. I'm saying like Turkish/Arabic is in the region, if you know what I mean. Like, because it's not, I'm not saying the one homogenous group of people. I'm including the other groups of people that support Eternal Fire and also would take offense at a perceived slight from an Israeli person. I hope that's clear, obviously. Listen, I won't get into, do we still need to talk about, the Ottoman thing? I don't know. As I said, this is why I don't get involved in the Balkan shit. I don't know what nomenclature you want me to use for that entire region. So that's fine. But anyway, yes, Turkish/Arabic. So, anyway, this could have been completely avoided, and I have great sympathy for Flames in this, because obviously I know him to be a chill guy behind the scenes. I know him to be a really, really nice dude. I know him to be someone that isn't like a drama frog, and certainly, has never waded into the world of geopolitics. And in much the same way, I've been a sympathetic ear to Russian players when their country's on some bullshit and they don't necessarily support it. We can't intuit what he thinks about any of this stuff, and to go after him and call him a terrorist and say he deserves to die and throw anti-Semitic abuse at him is like really beyond the pale. And the fan base that does that should be utterly ashamed of themselves. It's just crazy. But look, in the same way that I do believe at the Copenhagen major that we did for PGL, which obviously that was a much closer proximity to October 7th, somebody ran down the aisles with a giant Israeli flag, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, no. Can we not do this? Can we read the fucking room, guys? That didn't get shown on camera. That just happened in the crowd. And it obviously, look, that person isn't making a political statement. They just want to show support for Spinks, Flames, whoever it might be. I feel very sorry for Flames in all of this, because he's had a pretty rough time of it. And it's never nice when a large vitriolic fan base and Eternal Fire are up there with the worst of any esports fandom, because they don't stop. They won't let it go. And obviously the best thing he could do for the foreseeable is stay off social media. I imagine as well it will not just be him that's been spammed. It could very well be Team Vitality as well, maybe some of the other players. We will wait. I haven't even looked at the totality of it. But here's what I do know. It was certainly avoidable. And this is kind of unprecedented. I've never seen a TO, a tournament operator, come out and essentially apologize for what they broadcast. That's kind of a first. So, yesterday, there was an incident involving Vitality player Flames, where a middle finger gesture was caught on camera. This moment, which occurred in an out-of-context interaction between the player and the camera crew, should not have been aired, as this interaction happened before the match started. We want to clarify that the gesture was not aimed at any opponent or fellow competitor. We deeply regret that this has led to a horde of abusive messages being directed at the player online. We sincerely apologize for the negative attention it has caused, and we do not condone any abuse towards any player in any shape or form. And listen, I'll just tell you this, you could nip this this in the bud. Eternal Fire put a tweet out saying, look, we actually know it wasn't aimed at us. Please leave Flames alone. The org won't do that. They're some of the biggest fucking babies behind the scenes, by the way. The management of Eternal Fire are absolute babies. They're one of these orgs that anyone, when broadcast talent criticize them, they get upset about it and they talk. So the management seems to be in line with the fan base. In fact, if I remember rightly, didn't one of the managers threaten Thorin or something like about 3 years ago? It's just like, a fish rots from the head down is all I'm gonna say. So this is like kind of a first, and there was a lot of replies to it, and there was people pointing out the hypocrisy at the center of it. Yeah, there's Brokey, you're sweet. Hello, human resources for Flames. Again, probably more to do with the geopolitical situation than anything else. You had Eternal Fire fans complaining about Blast, blaming them. Surely you could have phrased this statement without throwing the fans under the bus. Won't somebody think about the fans? 90% of reactions from Eternal Fire fans are in a joking manner. Someone reading this without knowing the whole situation would think it's only abusive threads towards him, meaning threats. This tweet just encourages more toxicity. Yes, won't somebody think of us, the fandom doing the harassment? I agree. People requesting for Flames to be banned, a la Arcadian. But what's interesting is a lot of the replies are now saying, oh, well, yeah, don't get upset. We don't get upset over that because this is Counter-Strike and we're all grown-ups here. And it's like, well, there certainly wasn't a lot of grown-up behavior being aimed at Flames for that. And, yeah, he certainly had a rough time of it. And this is what I mean. It's just like, look, we have to get out of this fucking mindset that, like, fans, esports fans are great. Lots of fans are great. We must pander to the biggest fan bases and the most passionate fans. We must stop coming out and saying every group of fans are the best fans in the world. The fans make esports insufferable, right? And they're not a huge part of the economic equation, unfortunately. It's so ridiculous. Like, I hear from fans all the time, oh, without the fans, what would there be? Well, if we had fewer fans, would we make as much money? Could we command as much sponsorships? Probably not. Would the scene be better overall? Yes, it absolutely would. How do I know that? Because I'm 20 years deep and I'm from a time where we didn't have huge amounts of fans harassing people and wanting to be ultras like football groups. Over the most minor things. There was a kind of flip side to this coin. So one of the other things I've talked about manifested, which again, it went out on a broadcast, and it's one of those things that it should never have gone out on a broadcast. It's very easily fixed. And that was that a player had put stickers on a weapon or purchased a weapon that had stickers on them that when they overlapped with each other spell out the N-word. Not the N-word with an ER, the N-word with an A, if that makes any difference in your brain. And it's one of those things where it's been around. People love to do ridiculous fucking things with the stickers. But when you're a pro player, obviously you're going out on a broadcast that has sponsors adjacent to it. It's a tournament operator that's obviously giving your organization money, effectively a business partner of you. And we've had this happen in the past, just not on, I think, an official game. For instance, quite famously, I think it was Zeus from Na'Vi. He had a knife that had a very unsavory name with an ER in it. That was noticed, observed, and ultimately because he played for Na'Vi, nobody did anything about it, nobody cared, we all moved on. It was also probably in like 2014, 2015, so, different time, I guess. Certainly now, people would pay a lot more attention to that type of thing. And so what happened was we had a game where it was Monty versus 9 Pandas, and I can show you with a helpful edit of the sticker, so the offensive word will not be shown, so I won't get banned on Twitch. And there it is. And you can see this is an official ESL Challenger League broadcast. And there he is, holding up the offending gun, which is using, I believe, a combination of Apex, Namiga, and Gamer Legion stickers, all put together to spell out the offending word, which I won't leave on screen, even in an edited format, just to be safe. Now, obviously, there's very simple ways to fix this problem, right? Very, very simple ways. The first way is you just have default skins in Counter-Strike, but that would never happen. And why would that never happen? Because we have to pander to the skins economy. I reckon Valve wouldn't allow that. I think if a tournament operator said, we're going to have default skins only, I think Valve would actively intervene and say, no, because the best advertisement for the skins and the skins economy is players using skins. And I hate the way skins have created this parallel world to esports that I don't like. I can't stand the skin cells, the people that are obsessed with skins, the people that, you know, they think Valve's priority should be changing the new engine and changing CS2 so the skins look as shiny in the CS2 engine as they did in the CSGO engine, as if that's something that they should be dedicating time to over fixing the game and making it esports appropriate and adding content to it, right? Like, I think that's a much higher priority than your skin not looking as good, your Doppler fade or whatever not looking as vibrant. I couldn't give a fuck. I absolutely couldn't give a fuck. Then on top of that, you've got this other aspect that these players want to have expensive skins in the game because they don't want to look like a peasant. It's kind of like being a professional footballer, and even though you don't make as much money as like some of the senior players on the squad, you go out and you put a massive down payment on a fancy car, or you get yourself a Rolex and you walk around, and it's like you have to have this implied swag about you, because if you don't, then people might think you're a peasant, you're poor, you don't have skins. And what's ended up here is you get fucking players reaching out to like Arabic princes and mega wealthy gamblers, many of them involved with match fixing and other nefarious activities, and they're begging to borrow skins before their big games. You also get people who are attached to betting and gambling, and therefore by extension most likely match fixing, and they say to players, hey, want to borrow my super expensive skin before you play tomorrow? And it's a favor, and then suddenly you're adjacent to these people and they have you on Steam and they want to talk to you. And I've said many times, if you ever want to get an insight into just how little people really do care about being adjacent to match fixing, etc., go look at some of these big name pro players and look at the people they have on their Steam friends, and you will recognize some very shadowy names if you're deep into this topic like I am. So I don't want players adjacent to that, frankly. I think one of the aspects of any form of match fixing, any form of activity like this, is you have somebody called the corruptor in the dynamic. And the corruptor is the person that goes out and sounds out the people as to whether or not they would be open to fixing matches. And very often the corruptors are either a go-between for a wealthy person or the wealthy people themselves, dependent on how big the scene is and whether we're talking about organized crime or whatever. So having these skins is a priority for players that could be totally cut out. They would never need to mingle with these dangerous influencers in terms of integrity if we just simply had default skins in the game. Problem solved. But no. And so, look, we've had other issues in other Valve games. I think we had a Dota player had a racist name on one of his couriers. That was like a Wukong, a baby Wukong courier, and it had a racist name attached to it. I'll let your imagination run wild with that one. And obviously, we've had people type names that aren't just necessarily racist. We've had homophobic, slurs in there and stuff like this. And it's like, that's going out on your official broadcast where you're next to like Intel. We're a woke American tech company. Not that I'm really using the word woke unironically. We don't want to be adjacent to that. And it's like your responsibility as the tournament operator to insulate your sponsors away from this type of stuff. And like Crad doing this, It's crazy to me to think that in 2025, the year of our Lord, there are pro players that think this is going to slide and not get noticed by the community, particularly if you happen to be certain nationalities where people are looking for every single fucking instance of poor behavior from you. And so we go into the next component of the story, which is like Crad came out and said, I just saw the Reddit post about the Deagle. I want to tell you I bought it less than a week ago and didn't notice the word on it since I play with my left hand and the skins are mirrored. Have a good and productive day. Now, I want to say that if you showed me a mirror image of the N-word, I'd probably figure out that it was a mirror image of the N-word. I mean, I've been on the internet for a while now, you know what I mean? And I'd probably figure it out. I'm just saying. I'd probably get to the bottom of that mystery. I don't know if Crad's as advanced as I am intellectually. I don't know. I'm guessing evidently not. I'll also add as well, when you're absolutely banged to rights on this type of thing, you definitely don't end with have a good and productive day, which is what we call passive-aggressive responses. I mean, what you're implying is that the people that saw what you had on the Deagle posting it to Reddit, there's nothing good or productive about that. It's a waste of time. How dare they do it? Now, look, I don't like storms in a teacup. I don't like people trying to get players banned over silly things. But ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, this isn't a silly thing. This is you, a player in an ecosystem, going on an official broadcast, essentially showing off something that has the N-word on it, equivalent to, you know, next time I'm hosting an event, maybe I'll have the N-word on my t-shirt. That wouldn't cause a problem, would it? It's just a word, guys. No, of course it would be fucking ridiculously inappropriate, and I'd never work again. So ultimately, you have to think about these things, because you're not just standing on your own actions. What you're actually doing when you do this is you are putting that into the ecosystem, and it affects your teammates, your team, your tournament operator, the sponsors of the tournament operator, the people who are watching the broadcast. You're part of something big, and your behavior matters within that context. So to kind of tell this fib is very silly. And what ended up happening in the aftermath of this was he got suspended for 2 weeks from ESL. You can see he got a 2-week ban from ESL. That was going to be the end of it. Now, I have to say, two weeks is a very, very short ban, and ultimately wouldn't necessarily impact on anyone's career in any way, shape, or form. I have to think about, once again, player privilege, and that is that pro players get away with fucking murder when it comes to this stuff. Players can say anything, do anything, behave in any way, and ultimately people will make excuses for them, unless they're one of the deeply unpopular players, in which case they can't do right for doing wrong. But ultimately, 2 weeks for that doesn't really seem a fair equivalence. And so, okay, fine. That's, you know, we've never had to deal with this situation before. There's now a precedent. I'll also just add, ESL, why don't you come out and make a statement about what your new policy is going to be moving forward? You know, we've got, you don't allow caps or headbands. You don't allow Crocs. We know where you stand on this. So why not come out and make a statement saying we're going to ban him for 2 weeks, but moving forward, it is contingent on all players to understand that if you have offensive skins being used during an official broadcast, we are going to stop the broadcast, we are going to stop the game, and we are going to take punitive measures against you in real time there and then. That's what you should be saying if you're a tournament operator. Again, I shouldn't have to do your job for you, but this is the problem with modern ESL, modern Blast as well. They don't want the controversies to get talked about, because then people will notice when they are inconsistent in their application of the rules when the same thing happens again. In the same way, we've just had to let it slide that multiple times coaches are breaking the talking rule when they're not supposed to be at tournaments. We're just letting that one go now. We've got people coming into areas they're not supposed to be in during a game, and we're just kind of shrugging it off. But everyone's aware of what the rules are, and yet people are still breaking these rules, which ordinarily in a sport would lead to an escalation of penalty. But nobody wants to do that. And here's why you don't do that in the modern era of esports. Because the organizations have so much control, because they bring the viewership. If you're a big popular organization with a big popular fan base, you go, nah, we're not taking that punishment. We're not taking that punishment. And actually, if you impose that punishment, we just won't play at your events. And you're staring into the abyss of, like, on the one hand, I might want to ban a Na'Vi, for example. But I can't have Na'Vi not come to my events. That's all the viewership. So they issue these small bans, don't put out statements alongside the bans, don't change the rules, and ultimately we just muddle through. And it will happen again and again and again and again and again, because this is esports. It is a world where nothing is learned. Anyway, Crad thought that was the end of that. We've done the 2-week suspension. There was a slight problem. A guy called Pickled Pizzier, he put up a video and he said, look, I bought this new Deagle. It's cool. Here's the new one. And if you switch it to the right hand, then it's even better with stickers. Sadly, I don't play with the right hand. So the joke there is he's seen it, knows what the word says, and thinks it's funnier and even better when using it with the right hand. In other words, the skin is better when it has the N word the right way round and people can see it. It then goes on and he says, show the right hand. What's on it? It's just the right hand. Nothing special. Just a beautiful Deagle with beautiful shining stickers, he says while laughing. Then he goes a little bit further on and he says, fuck, I want to pronounce it again, but I understand I'm streaming and you can't do that. Banned for what? Somebody points out in the chat that you could get banned for showing it. Shouldn't be a ban. It's a beautiful Deagle, by the way. I love this skin. It's sparkly. Damn, it's so uncomfortable with right hands, but I think I'll play right hand only with this Deagle and not with any other skin. Right? So he's on video making not one, not two, not three, but 4 separate jokes about why it's better with the right hand when you can see the N-word, and laughing about it and thinking it's funny and that there should be no consequences for it. Strong uptake for that opinion on HLTV forums, by the way. And look, as I said, when you're a pro player on the internet and people have reasons to dislike you, be it your nationality, be it your personality, be it your history, be it you've angered a fandom, everyone will dig into your shit. They will dig into your shit and they will find a clip that absolutely damns you. And you've got to know in advance as a player, oh shit, I did do that a few days ago, didn't I? Maybe I should go back and delete that VOD. But players just get used to being untouchable, and so okay, the 2-week suspension has been issued. Well, you know, he's been punished, right? Well, no, it's a little bit different now, because now we all know that he was lying. By the way, that thread on Reddit that proved conclusively that he was lying with an accurate translation according to multiple people in that channel. It got closed. It got closed. The mods just closed that, and I'm like, if that was Thorin, that would never have been closed. If that was me, that would never have been closed. That was, I don't know, pick an unpopular player, right? That would never have been closed. That would have been the #1 thread of the year, filled with hate. But players get away with it. Players get away with it every single fucking time. Every time they slip, we have to all rush round and protect them. So, the suspension got extended, and it was announced on Telegram that it was extended. And here is the extension. The ban has been reviewed. Now it's a month. Guys, don't repeat my mistakes. The price is high, so learn from other people's situations. Now, I hate to say it, but a month is kind of wild. It's kind of a wild precedent to set, because it's just not gonna, he can't compete in any ESL tournaments for a month. Oh, okay. Well, what does that mean in real terms, right? What upcoming matches do they have? And you look and you go, oh, it's only the ESL Challenger League, and so it's a month ban starting at the end of January. So when are the games? What games is he missing? So a large part of the suspension is just going to be spent. He would have been putting his feet up anyway. ESL Challenger runs between January and fucking May. It's a super long, drawn-out tournament. Ultimately, he's not going to miss any particular important match for what he's done. And again, remember why it's important. Look, oh, you're being an edgelord. I don't care if you're doing that in a fucking, matchmaking game or whatever. I really couldn't give a shit. But you have a potential to disrupt the entire esports ecosystem when you do things like this. Same with cheating, same with match fixing, same with abusing bugs, same with racial slurs and abuse. And what ESL have done is, because they don't want a big drama, because then it would draw attention to them, they've just gone, we're extending it to a month, shut the fuck up about it. And he's gone on Telegram and said it's a month, learn from my mistakes, doesn't apologise, of course. So the issue with that is a fine appropriate? I mean, really? He may miss a game or two. We don't know. Is that, but a fine maybe? Is a fine appropriate? No. So no statement about what we're going to do moving forward on it. So again, we objectively learn nothing. No formal apology, no fine, just 4 weeks without playing when you might not be playing for 4 weeks anyway. We just don't know. And so it's just crazy to think about that, because I don't want his head. I don't want him permabanned. I don't want him suspended for a year. I don't want a draconian punishment being issued here. But I'd like us to put more robust framework in place so this doesn't happen again. I'd like players to grasp in their fucking pea brains why it's unacceptable to have words like that on your fucking skins and to think about these things. But no, that just went out on a broadcast. By the way, imagine being the commentators during that game. It's just there on the screen. You can't address it. You can't talk about it. If you do address it, you'll be in more trouble than the player. Everyone can see it. Probably, I can't even imagine what the Twitch chat was like on the VOD. And 4 week suspension for that. Yeah. So those two things happened in the same week. And it's tournament operators, when it comes to broadcast, have really got to get their shit together in terms of what goes out there. Because ultimately, I'll also say this. How has nobody seen that during the game, and from ESL? And why hasn't the admin paused the game and said, get that fucking skin off now? Why hasn't there been an immediate response to it? If that had gone on in another esport, again, if that goes on in Riot World, he is banned for at least a year, at the very least. Could even be permanently, frankly. But if you're watching something like that happen in real time, why aren't you, again, using forethought, saying, this is going to be really bad? Just pause the game. I'm an admin. I'm calling a pause. Change that skin. Now, disconnect from the server, change your loadout, reload in. That's ridiculous. When there will be a penalty for this later after the game. Super easy. But again, it's esports. It's just a clown car. It's just a clown car of morons and just ineffective people. Just incompetence, just bumbling incompetence. Same with what happened to Flames. Flames is flipping the finger at a cameraman. By the way, I don't know if that's true. I'll take Flames at his word, but I'd certainly tell the lie, all things told. Well, put Flames just flipping off a Turkish team while he's Israeli. At the same time on social media, you've got all these viral videos that aren't particularly pleasant. And we'll do that, and everyone will just think it's funny and banter. Oh, wait, no, they don't think it's funny and banter. By the way, it would have probably been the same even if he wasn't Israeli, because it's Eternal Fire fans, and they are not a reasonable fan base. So I'm begging tournament operators to just think about how we can, fix these things, resolve these things, make things better, and do a better job moving forward. Because at opposite ends of the spectrum, you've got Flames being essentially a victim of a bad broadcast choice there, and we've got Crad ultimately making the broadcast a victim of his outrageous behaviour, and ESL ultimately saying, you know what, we don't really mind all that much, have a 4 week suspension. Kind of crazy. Oh, I saw this. Just a brave Reddit opinion, of course. Always end with a Reddit thread. There's a Reddit thread for every occasion. Opinion. Downvoted to 0. There should be filters that disallow certain sticker crafts. With all this stuff with the Crad Deagle, should the devs introduce behind-the-scenes filters that stop certain crafts being made if they contain a specific combination of known problematic stickers? I think so. I'm interested in what others think. Now, once again, what they've done is they have put the responsibility on Valve. Valve need to be scanning this stuff. Now, look, I've seen ridiculous stickers, and in fact, in the initial Crad thread, again, I can't show it to you, some Redditor said, oh yeah, I have a craft where I have made a penis ejaculating on the side of my Deagle. And somebody went, how did you do that? Can you show me? And he went, yeah, sure. And lo and behold, somehow we found a combination of stickers that did a really good penis ejaculation, and openly sharing it on Reddit. And it's like, people are going to do wild shit if you give them the freedom to do stuff like that. Valve will always give players more freedom and more autonomy because they treat their games, their ecosystems, their communities like a Petri dish. They're mad scientists. They fucking throw the bacteria into the Petri dish and they fucking step back and they go, oh, look, everyone's racist. Everyone's doing racist stickers. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Make a note of that. And then they go, do you think that if we allowed people to dangle things off the end of guns, we'd make more money? Yeah, I don't know. Try it out. Put it in the Petri dish. And it can't be on Valve. Like, it can't be on Valve to have to create an entire new algorithm that every time you do stickers on on your gun, it scans it and goes scanning, N-word detected, scanning, and then it bans the skin or bans you. I don't know what it would be, but it can't be on Valve for that. Maybe if you're a pro player, just don't have that shit. Like, it's got to be different rules for pro players going on live broadcasts. It just has to be. But no, this guy wants Valve to fix it. You can see as well, they should never have allowed stickers to be placed wherever the crafter wants. It was obvious this was going to happen. First article I remember seeing about this was an AK with 4 Titan blue stickers making a SWAT sticker. Oh, there it is. It's this guy. Personally, I have a Deagle with a dick coming into a tongue face. There it is. That's the guy. And that's the link. But obviously, you know, Titan blue stickers worth money, and people putting them into a Nazi symbol is obviously edgy as fuck, ridiculous. People aren't going to scrape them stickers off, mate. It's like, just if you're a pro, don't do this. There's so many filters to avoid this ever happening. If you're a pro, don't do it. Use your brain. If you're a manager and you see your player with that skin in practice, tell them never to use it. Right? So we've got the player not being a moron. Very often we fall at that first hurdle. Then, okay, we've got management not being a moron. Right? We failed again. Then we've got admins watching the game live. Do you want to do your job? No, okay, right? We failed again. And then we've got ESL. You could just make a statement on those skins, put harsh penalties in place, and not have to deal with... We're not going to do that either. So we failed again. And then a poster goes, why would Valve do this? You know, I just don't know what to say. Except, honestly, tournament operators, you've got to get your shit together. You just have to.